Most men will never hear this, and that's exactly why it matters. What I'm about to say will make some people uncomfortable because it quietly exposes a truth no one is willing to admit out loud. If you've ever wondered why attention shifts in a room, why certain men are noticed without trying, why attraction doesn't follow the rules you were taught, then you need to listen carefully. This is not about age, looks, money, or status. It's about something far deeper, and once you see it, you won't be able to unsee it. Right now, older men are walking past this truth every day without realizing it. Younger women are noticing things they don't even fully understand themselves. It's happening in conversations, in silence, in the way a man enters a space and doesn't need to announce himself. And the reason this feels confusing is because everything you've been told about attraction is incomplete. The real drivers of desire are subtle, psychological, and often invisible to the untrained eye. If you've ever felt overlooked despite doing everything right, this will challenge you. If you've ever believed attraction fades with time, this will dismantle that belief. And if you think confidence means being louder, bolder, or more impressive, stay with me, because that illusion is about to fall apart. What actually creates attention is quieter, slower, and far more powerful. By the end of this video, you'll understand why some men grow more magnetic with time, while others disappear into the background. You'll see why chasing attention repels it, why calm creates curiosity, and why the most attractive presence in any room is often the one doing the least to be seen. This isn't motivational fluff. This is psychological reality, and once you grasp it, the way you move through the world will change. Most people misunderstand attraction because they reduce it to surfaces. They think it begins and ends with age, symmetry, skin, or style. That belief is comforting because it makes attraction seem simple and predictable, but it's also deeply inaccurate. Real attraction operates on a psychological level long before the visual mind catches up. What younger women respond to in older men is not the number of years lived, and it's certainly not the absence of youth. It's the presence of something far rarer: emotional presence, calm confidence, and inner stability. Emotional presence is the ability to be fully in the moment without performing. It's a man who listens without waiting to speak. A man who is not distracted by how he's being perceived. When someone is emotionally present, they make the person in front of them feel seen rather than assessed. That experience is profoundly attractive because most interactions today are transactional. People are constantly scanning for advantage, validation, or escape. When a man is genuinely present, he interrupts that pattern. Younger women notice this immediately, often without being able to articulate why. They simply feel different around him. Calm confidence is another misunderstood concept. Confidence is often confused with dominance, volume, or certainty. But calm confidence is quieter. It doesn't announce itself. It's the absence of urgency. It's a man who doesn't rush to impress or defend himself. He doesn't need to prove intelligence, success, or worth because his sense of self is already integrated. This kind of confidence comes from having tested oneself against life and survived the outcome. That history shows up in posture, pacing, and tone. Younger women are attuned to this because it signals reliability, not excitement for a moment, but steadiness over time. Inner stability is perhaps the most magnetic quality of all, and it's the one least visible to the eye. Inner stability is emotional regulation. It's the ability to experience stress, conflict, or uncertainty without collapsing or lashing out. Many younger men have potential, energy, and ambition, but they haven't yet developed this internal grounding. They are still reactive. Their mood shifts with circumstances. Their identity is fragile because it hasn't been pressure tested. Older men who have done the internal work move differently. They don't personalize every challenge. They don't catastrophize setbacks. That psychological steadiness creates a sense of safety. That is deeply felt. Safety is often misunderstood as boredom, but psychological safety is the foundation of desire. It allows attraction to deepen rather than burn out. When a younger woman senses that a man is emotionally contained, she relaxes, her nervous system settles, she doesn't feel the need to manage his emotions or anticipate volatility. This is not a conscious calculation, it's a biological and psychological response. The body reads stability as protection, not protection from the world, but protection from chaos. This is why looks alone don't sustain attraction. Physical appeal may initiate interest, but it cannot hold attention if it's paired with insecurity or instability. An older man who understands himself, who is comfortable with his imperfections, and who doesn't seek approval, creates a contrast that stands out. He doesn't compete with younger men on energy or trendiness. He occupies a different psychological space altogether. That space feels grounded, composed, and intentional. There is also something deeply attractive about a man who knows his limits. Younger men often overextend, overpromise, and overreact because they are still defining themselves through external feedback. An older man who has reached a level of self-knowledge knows what he can offer and what he cannot. He sets boundaries without hostility. He says no without guilt. That clarity communicates self-respect. And self-respect is contagious. People treat you according to how clearly you treat yourself. Another overlooked element is silence. Silence from a stable man is not awkward, it's intentional. It creates room rather than tension. Many people rush to fill silence because they fear judgment or rejection. A man who is comfortable in silence signals that he does not fear either. Younger women often interpret this as mystery, but it's actually security. He is not afraid of being alone with his thoughts, and therefore not afraid of being alone in general. That independence is deeply attractive because it removes pressure from the interaction. What's important to understand is that none of this is about manipulation or strategy. The moment a man tries to perform these qualities, they lose their power. Emotional presence, calm confidence, and inner stability are byproducts of lived experience and self-reflection. They come from facing failure honestly, learning from loss, and developing a coherent sense of self. Younger women are not drawn to older men because of age itself. They are drawn to the psychological maturity that age can produce when it's used well. This is also why not all older men experience this attention. Age without growth does not create attraction. Bitterness, rigidity, and unresolved insecurity repel just as strongly at any stage of life. The difference lies in whether time has been integrated or merely endured. When time is integrated, it produces wisdom, restraint, and depth. When it's merely endured, it produces resentment and fear. Younger women instinctively differentiate between the two. Attraction, at its core, is about how someone makes you feel in their presence. A man who is emotionally present makes you feel valued. A man who is calmly confident makes you feel at ease. A man who is internally stable makes you feel safe. These feelings create desire not because they are dramatic, but because they are rare. In a world of overstimulation and emotional volatility, stability becomes seductive. So if there is one idea worth holding on to, it's this: attraction is not something you chase by changing how you look or act. It's something you cultivate by becoming psychologically grounded. When you develop presence, confidence without noise, and stability without rigidity, people feel it. And when people feel it, they respond. The real question isn't why younger women notice older men. The real question is whether you are becoming the kind of person whose inner world is strong enough to be felt without words. When people hear the phrase that younger women are drawn to older men because of maturity, they often reduce it to cliches. They imagine money, status, or some outdated fantasy of control. But maturity, in its truest sense, has nothing to do with what you possess and everything to do with how you relate. What younger women are responding to is not advantage, but depth, not authority, but steadiness, not age, but direction. Direction is one of the most underestimated forces in attraction. A man who knows where he is going psychologically and ethically creates a sense of orientation for the people around him. He doesn't drift emotionally. He doesn't outsource his decisions to trends, peer pressure, or validation. Younger women, especially those who are ambitious, self-aware, or emotionally curious, often feel surrounded by men who are still negotiating their identity. There is nothing wrong with that phase, but it creates uncertainty. Uncertainty is exciting in short bursts, but exhausting over time. Maturity offers relief from that exhaustion. An older man who has already confronted his contradictions doesn't need to perform certainty. He has learned that clarity comes from experience, not bravado. This is why his words carry weight even when he speaks less. He doesn't interrupt. He doesn't dominate conversations to feel relevant. He allows space. That space communicates confidence in a way no performance ever could. Depth is another element that cannot be faked. Emotional depth comes from having felt things fully and survived them. Loss, disappointment, failure, responsibility, grief, joy. When these experiences are integrated rather than suppressed, they expand a person's emotional range. Younger women sense this in conversation. They notice that an older man doesn't rush to fix emotions or dismiss complexity. He can sit with ambiguity. He can hold nuance. That capacity makes emotional connection feel safer and more meaningful. Safety is often misinterpreted as predictability or lack of passion, but psychological safety is what allows passion to endure. Many younger women have experienced relationships where intensity was mistaken for intimacy, high emotion, constant conflict, dramatic highs and lows. Over time, that pattern erodes trust and self-worth. Maturity offers something different. It offers consistency without dullness, strength without aggression, and interest without possession. A mature man does not try to impress by exaggerating his achievements or minimizing others. He understands that comparison is a sign of insecurity. He respects autonomy, not because he is indifferent, but because he understands that desire cannot exist without freedom. Younger women find this deeply attractive because it allows them to be fully themselves without fear of competition or control. They are not being evaluated or managed, they are being met. Another aspect of maturity is accountability. A man who takes responsibility for his actions, emotions, and mistakes signals emotional adulthood. He doesn't externalize blame. He doesn't rewrite history to protect his ego. He owns his part and learns from it. This is rare enough to be disarming. Younger women often encounter men who are defensive, reactive, or dismissive when challenged. A man who can say, "I was wrong," without collapsing or retaliating, stands out immediately. There is also a quiet confidence in a man who understands his values. Values create consistency across situations. They guide decisions when emotions fluctuate. A mature man doesn't shift his behavior to gain approval. He is the same in private as he is in public. That integrity builds trust, and trust deepens attraction. Younger women are not looking for perfection. They are looking for coherence, a sense that the person in front of them is aligned internally. It's important to acknowledge that maturity is not guaranteed by age. Some people grow older without growing deeper, but when maturity is present, it reshapes the dynamic entirely. The interaction stops feeling like a negotiation and starts feeling like a connection. Younger women often describe this as feeling seen or understood, even when they can't pinpoint why. What they are responding to is the absence of emotional chaos. A mature man doesn't rush intimacy. He understands timing. He doesn't pressure for closeness or withdraw to create distance. He allows connection to unfold naturally. This patience is often mistaken for indifference, but it's actually respect. He is not afraid that space will weaken attraction because he knows that genuine interest doesn't need to be forced. That confidence is rare, and rarity creates value. Direction also means having a relationship with the future. A man who thinks beyond immediate gratification signals long-term orientation. He makes decisions with awareness of consequences. Younger women who are thinking about their own trajectory, whether personal or professional, recognize this alignment. It creates a sense of partnership rather than distraction. The attraction shifts from surface-level excitement to mutual respect. There is a profound difference between being wanted and being chosen. Younger women are often wanted for their youth, beauty, or potential. Being chosen by a man who is emotionally mature feels different. It feels intentional rather than opportunistic. A mature man doesn't collect people to fill a void. He connects because he sees compatibility. That discernment is attractive because it implies self-sufficiency. What draws younger women ultimately is not the idea of being led, but the experience of being supported without being diminished. Maturity creates that balance. It allows strength to coexist with empathy, authority to coexist with humility, confidence to coexist with curiosity. These combinations are rare because they require internal work, not external performance. So when we say that younger women are drawn to older men because maturity creates safety, depth, and direction, we are pointing to something fundamental about human connection. People are drawn to those who make life feel more navigable, not more chaotic, to those whose presence calms rather than unsettles, to those who know themselves well enough to meet others without pretense. The reflection to sit with is this: maturity is not about becoming impressive, it's about becoming grounded. And when you are grounded, your presence does the work for you, long before you ever try to. One of the most counterintuitive truths about attraction is that the moment a man stops trying to be chosen, he becomes far more desirable. This feels almost offensive to people who believe effort and pursuit are the foundations of connection. But psychologically, desire does not grow in environments where validation is demanded. It grows where self-worth is already established. A man who does not seek approval, does not chase attention, and does not negotiate his value sends a powerful signal before he ever speaks. Validation seeking is not always obvious. It often hides behind charm, generosity, humor, or even success. But at its core, it is the same pattern. Trying to extract reassurance from others to compensate for an unstable internal sense of worth. Younger women are especially sensitive to this, not because they analyze it intellectually, but because they feel the emotional weight of it. When a man needs to be admired, agreed with, or constantly affirmed, the interaction subtly shifts. She becomes the regulator of his self-esteem. That is not flattering. It is burdensome. A man who knows his worth moves differently. He does not rush to impress because he is not auditioning. He does not chase because he is not afraid of absence. He does not cling because he trusts his ability to walk away and still be intact. This creates a psychological asymmetry that is deeply attractive, not because of power over someone else, but because of power over oneself. Chasing often masquerades as interest, but it usually communicates anxiety. It says, I need this to work in order to feel okay. Even when intentions are good, that underlying urgency creates pressure. Desire cannot breathe under pressure. A younger woman may initially enjoy the attention, but over time she will feel constrained by it. The attraction fades not because the man did something wrong, but because he made himself too necessary to the outcome. In contrast, a man who does not chase creates space, space for curiosity, space for choice, space for genuine interest to develop rather than be coerced. This does not mean he is passive or disengaged. It means his interest is grounded, not desperate. He shows up consistently, but he does not overextend. He expresses attraction, but he does not collapse if it is not immediately reciprocated. That emotional independence is rare, and rarity intensifies value. Knowing one's worth is not arrogance. Arrogance is inflated self-worth that requires constant reinforcement. True self-worth is quiet. It does not need witnesses. A man who knows his worth does not measure himself through comparison. He does not compete for attention. He does not feel diminished by another man's success or threatened by a woman's confidence. This inner solidity allows him to relate as an equal rather than as a performer. Younger women often encounter men who are either trying to win them or trying to control them. Both approaches stem from insecurity. One tries to earn affection, the other tries to secure it. A man who knows his worth does neither. He allows connection to be mutual. He does not manipulate with distance, nor does he overwhelm with pursuit. He trusts that if there is alignment, it will reveal itself without force. There is also a deep respect communicated when a man does not chase. He respects his own time, energy, and emotional bandwidth. That self-respect sets the tone for how others treat him. People intuitively rise or fall to the level of boundaries they are given. When a man does not overinvest prematurely, he signals discernment. He is not trying to fill a void, he is choosing deliberately. This discern me. NT is attractive because it reframes the interaction. The woman is no longer the prize being pursued. She becomes a participant in a mutual evaluation. That shift often creates a surprising response. When a man is not trying to win someone over, curiosity emerges. She begins to wonder what he values, what he notices, and what it would mean to be chosen by him. Desire grows in environments where choice feels real. Another overlooked aspect is emotional regulation. A man who knows his worth does not react impulsively to uncertainty. He does not become cold to punish disinterest or overly accommodating to regain approval. He remains consistent. That consistency creates emotional safety. Younger women are often wary of men whose behavior changes dramatically based on how desired they feel. Stability in response to ambiguity signals maturity. There is also strength in restraint. Restraint is not suppression. It is intentionality. A man who does not chase has learned that not every impulse needs to be acted upon. He understands timing. He understands pacing. He understands that connection deepens when it is allowed to unfold rather than be rushed. This patience is often misread as aloofness, but it is actually confidence in process. Knowing one's worth also means being willing to walk away, not as a tactic, but as a truth. A man who stays in situations where he feels disrespected, undervalued, or misaligned erodes his own self-respect. Younger women notice this. They may not articulate it, but they feel when a man tolerates less than he deserves, it signals fear of loss. A man who can walk away calmly signals abundance, not of options, but of self-trust. This does not mean emotional detachment. A man who knows his worth can care deeply. The difference is that his caring does not override his standards. He does not abandon himself to be chosen. That balance between openness and self-respect is rare. It creates a dynamic where attraction is not driven by anxiety but by admiration. At a philosophical level, desire is drawn to wholeness. People are attracted to those who are not trying to be completed. When a man stands on his own psychologically, he invites connection rather than dependency. Younger women often find this refreshing because it removes the unspoken responsibility of being someone's emotional anchor. The paradox is simple but profound. The less you try to be chosen, the more choosable you become. Not because of games or tactics, but because self-sufficiency is inherently attractive. It signals that you are not seeking to take something from the interaction. You are offering presence, not need. The question to reflect on is not whether someone desires you, but whether you desire yourself enough to not beg for confirmation. When you know your worth, your presence speaks before your pursuit ever could. One of the most misunderstood ideas in modern attraction is confidence. It is often portrayed as being loud, dominant, visually impressive, or socially aggressive, but loud confidence is usually compensation. It is a signal that something inside is still unsettled. What younger women consistently respond to is something very different: emotional control, lived experience, and quiet leadership. These qualities don't demand attention, they command it. Emotional control is not emotional absence. It is the ability to feel without being ruled by feeling. A man who has emotional control experiences anger without exploding, desire without entitlement, and disappointment without resentment. This regulation is deeply attractive because it creates predictability at the nervous system level. Younger women, especially those who have encountered emotional volatility in relationships, are highly sensitive to this. They can sense when a man's emotions own him versus when he owns them. When a man reacts impulsively, the world feels unstable around him. Conversations become tense. Small disagreements feel dangerous. Emotional control, on the other hand, creates spaciousness. It allows difficult topics to be discussed without fear. It allows attraction to deepen without anxiety. This is not about being emotionally muted. It is about being emotionally intelligent. Younger women often interpret this as strength because strength, at its core, is containment. Life experience plays a crucial role here. Experience teaches proportion. It teaches what is worth reacting to and what is not. A man who has lived through loss, failure, responsibility, and recovery understands that not every moment requires intensity. He has perspective. That perspective shows up as patience, discernment, and calm. Younger women feel this immediately. It creates a sense that life with this person would feel steadier, not more chaotic. There is also humility embedded in experience. A man who has truly lived knows his limits. He knows that certainty is often an illusion, and that growth comes from reflection, not bravado. This humility is attractive because it allows space for dialogue rather than dominance. Younger women are not drawn to men who need to be right. They are drawn to men who can be real. Experience softens the ego while strengthening the core. Quiet leadership is perhaps the most magnetic quality of all. Leadership is often confused with control, but true leadership is about direction, not dominance. A quiet leader does not command obedience. He inspires trust. He doesn't micromanage emotions or outcomes. He models steadiness and invites others into it. Younger women often find this irresistible because it removes pressure. They are not being managed or corrected. They are being guided by example. A man who leads quietly does not announce his authority, he earns it through consistency. His words align with his actions. His boundaries are clear without being rigid. His values are visible without being imposed. This kind of leadership feels safe because it is not performative. It does not depend on fear or validation. It depends on integrity. There is also something profoundly attractive about a man who does not need to win every interaction. Emotional control allows him to lose arguments without losing self-respect. Experience allows him to tolerate discomfort without panicking. Quiet leadership allows him to prioritize connection over ego. Younger women notice when a man chooses understanding over dominance. It signals emotional maturity and relational intelligence. Another important aspect is pacing. Men with emotional control and experience understand timing. They do not rush decisions, intimacy, or commitments. They allow things to unfold organically. This pacing creates trust. Younger women often feel overwhelmed by men who push for certainty too quickly. It feels like pressure rather than interest. Quiet leadership respects process. It trusts that what is real does not need to be forced. Control over reactions also signals self-mastery. Self-mastery is one of the most attractive human traits. It suggests that the man is not at war with himself. He has integrated his impulses rather than being driven by them. Younger women sense this as safety, not boredom. Safety here does not mean predictability. It means emotional reliability. It means knowing that conflict will not turn into chaos. There is a philosophical dimension to this as well. People are drawn to those who embody coherence. When a man's inner world is ordered, his outer presence feels calm. He doesn't create unnecessary drama. He doesn't escalate tension. He doesn't use emotional volatility as a tool. That coherence is deeply grounding for others. Younger women often find themselves leaning into that presence without consciously deciding to. Quiet leadership also allows room for individuality. A man who is secure does not feel threatened by a woman's independence, intelligence, or ambition. He does not compete with her. He does not try to shrink her to feel larger. His sense of self is stable enough to coexist with hers. This creates a partnership dynamic rather than a power struggle. Attraction thrives where there is respect. It's important to recognize that these qualities cannot be performed convincingly. Emotional control without self-awareness becomes suppression. Experience without reflection becomes bitterness. Leadership without humility becomes control. What makes these traits attractive is their authenticity. They come from inner work, not strategy. Younger women are not responding to an act, they are responding to alignment. At its core, attraction is a response to how someone makes life feel. Emotional control makes life feel calmer. Experience makes life feel navigable. Quiet leadership makes life feel intentional. These are not flashy qualities, but they are enduring ones. In a RLD that glorifies noise and immediacy, quiet strength stands out. The reflection to carry forward is simple but demanding. Strength is not proven by how loudly you assert yourself, but by how calmly you hold yourself. When you master your reactions, integrate your experiences, and lead without force, your presence becomes unmistakable, and that presence speaks long before you ever do.